Hey friends, Kelsey here. Welcome back to my kitchen. Today I have some frugal meals for you that use only a few basic ingredients but are still packed full of flavor. They're sure to please just about everyone, even my picky eaters here. They can be accomplished on a small budget and limited time. I spend about $500 to $600 monthly for our family of 4 on groceries, although sometimes I can spend less than that. One way I accomplish this is by cooking from scratch, using whole food ingredients and simple recipes. I don't buy pre-made foods. I very rarely pick up anything for convenience, although we all go through seasons where sometimes they become a necessity. I try and do my best to make everything I can from home. I'm going to share 4 recipes with you today that I have on my meal rotation. You will see that there are very few ingredients needed, and all of these ingredients are things I, for the most part, have in my home at all times, with the exception of 1 or 2. I came up with a rotation of 8 to 10 meals, cheap ones, and keep the needed ingredients for those meals in my pantry. It cuts down on costs because you'll find there's a lot of overlap actually in terms of what ingredients are needed for those meals. Then you can save money by purchasing those ingredients in bulk. When you have a plan, a meal plan, you don't run the risk of last-minute trips to the store. At least for me, I go in and come back out with more than what I actually needed. And because I didn't take the time to meal plan, I actually had some of those things at home and I just forgot about it. Plus, if you are ever experiencing dinner time fatigue, what am I going to make tonight? You know what you can make because you have that rotation and you keep those ingredients on hand in your home. Now, I still like to get really creative in the kitchen, so these aren't the only meals I make, but these are my go-to meals that we all love, that I know will always fit into the budget, and I most always have what's needed to make them. This first recipe is one of my favorites, and it's a recipe where you can't knock it until you try it, and that is cream chipped beef, or it's also called SOS. I think there's a few other names for it. If you want to look up what SOS stands for, you go ahead and do that. But it is very simple. I know it dates back to like wartime. I know at least World War I. And it is dried chipped beef. Now, it's going to vary by location, but it was $3.48 a pack for me. I know you can also go to a local butcher and sometimes they have it. If it's not something you can source, you can just use some ground beef, and that may actually be more affordable in the long run, but the dried beef is very good. So I have 12 ounces of dried beef. I am making 2 separate pans here because I am gluten and dairy free. So the one in the back is for my family, the one in the front is for me. So I have split that accordingly. But it would go for every 6 ounces of dried beef. You're going to fry that up in 4 tablespoons of butter, just until the edges get nice and golden brown. And then you're going to add in 4 tablespoons of flour. Stir that up. Coat everything well and allow that flour to cook for about a minute. For mine, I am just using Bob's Red Mill, the 1-to-1 gluten-free flour. It does the trick. Next comes some milk. I used oat milk for mine, and yes, it still tasted good, but I have regular milk for my family. It's 2.5 cups, and you add it in slowly so that you don't get chunks in your sauce. You want a smooth, creamy sauce. I've also boiled some potatoes just until they were not quite fork tender because I wanted to fry them again, and I fried them in some bacon grease that I had set to the side. You have to be resourceful when you're trying to save money in the kitchen, so I save all of my bacon fat to cook in. It can add so much flavor to the right type of meals. And then we're gonna toast some bread. Again, if you can make your own bread, it's going to save you even more money. I have quite a few videos on that. I can put one here on the screen and a playlist down in the description for you. Full disclosure, this was not homemade bread. I came out of a 2-week period where I was just going nonstop, so we got some Dave's Killer bread. But traditionally, this was just toast and the creamed chipped beef. It's optional to add the potatoes. It's something we do in our PA Dutch area. So if you have the funds, it adds more bulk to the meal and a whole lot of flavor. So this 6-ingredient meal came to about $2 a serving. It was $1.98, and we got 6 servings out of this. Now, that will vary greatly depending on where you are located, but regardless, it's still a very affordable meal. The second recipe I have for you is hamburger gravy. I make mine a little different than most do. I add carrots and peas into mine, and I serve over mashed potatoes. So we have potatoes, an onion, some peas, some ground beef, and some carrots. Those are the main stars of this dish. So first I need to brown up this 1 pound of ground beef till it is completely cooked, and then I'm going to set it off to the side. Dicing up my small onion, I want to fry this up, get these cooking, although I don't need to cook them all the way because we're going to cook the carrots with them. And I left some of the grease from the beef in the pan. Again, always being resourceful where you can. Getting to work on the mashed potatoes. Now I am peeling these potatoes because I have 2 picky eaters who don't love potato peels, and I'm just doing what I gotta do to get them to eat. But if times are really tough, they would be eating the potato peels because it's gonna bulk up the meal and there's a lot of good nutrients in there. So do whatever you will, but I am peeling and chopping these up, and I'm gonna get them boiling until fork tender. Now each of these meals is providing us with at least 6 servings. Now we're a family of 4. It's my husband and myself, and we have a 7-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son. So we're always getting at least 1 dinner time meal for all 4 of us, and then my husband and I will eat the leftovers for lunches during the week. So for the potato portion, the mashed potatoes, I used about 7 to 8 small to medium potatoes for that, and now I am cutting up 4 carrots. Carrots go in with the onions, and we cook all those up until they are fork tender. For the mashed potatoes, I am keeping it simple. So just some butter, some milk, and some salt and pepper. If the budget allows, I like to add in a whole bunch of stuff. I like sour cream and cream cheese and maybe some chives and some cheese. But you do what you can with the budget you have, so a simple mashed potato is still a good mashed potato. Now to make the actual hamburger gravy. To the carrots and onions, I'm adding 4 tablespoons of flour. I'm using gluten-free flour so that I can eat this as well. Allow that to cook for about a minute, and we'll add some beef broth. Now, I didn't have any beef broth made, so I'm just going to add in some water, and I'm going to add some beef bouillon to that. I have a video out I did recently where I made some beef bouillon and chicken bouillon from scratch. If you want to go check that out, I can put the link down in the description, or I can put it here on the screen for you. Now I am just doing the same thing like I did before with the cream chip beef. I am adding in this liquid slowly so we get a nice smooth gravy. If you have it on hand, some Worcestershire sauce will add a nice punch of flavor to this. I also added some garlic powder. One whole can of peas goes in and our cooked beef, and then I'm just going to taste this and adjust with salt and pepper as needed. The cost per serving here was about $2.30, and again, that gave us about 6 servings. This next dish is one of my favorites, although it's not one that I can eat anymore, but I will live vicariously through my family because they still enjoy it, and that is halushki. It is a Polish dish. We have a fairly large Polish community around here. We're in the coal region of Pennsylvania. So this is cabbage, onion, and noodles primarily, cooked in butter, and then you throw in some sort of sausage. Usually it's like kielbasi. I didn't have any kielbasi, but I did have some hot dogs, and that will just do the trick. I found those hot dogs on major sale. You just use whatever you have and you adjust accordingly. I showed you some garlic, but I didn't actually use any garlic in this dish. Now I have sliced up my onion here, fairly large. My kids don't love the texture of onions, but they love the flavor. So I always make them big enough that they can pick them out, and then my husband will eat them. They don't go to waste. Nothing goes to waste here. Either it goes to my husband, it goes to the chickens, or it goes on the compost pile. So I had 1 onion sauteing in about 4 tablespoons of butter until they are translucent and starting to brown around the edges. I'm going to slice up my cabbage here. Now this was a fairly large head. I will not use all of this, so I used half of it and I have sliced it thinly and chopped it up. The rest I will probably chop up and freeze or freeze dry for another recipe. Now to cook up some pasta, I am using some egg noodles. These are just a medium egg noodle. You can use fine or the wide egg noodles as well. If you can't find those, sometimes you can find like pot pie noodles in the pasta aisle. If you can't find any egg noodles, I know someone said they're having a hard time finding them. That might be a regional thing around here in PA Dutch country. You could just use any sort of pasta. I used half a bag, so that's about 8 ounces of egg noodles. Onions are cooked, so I'm going to throw in these hot dogs, or if you would be using another type of sausage or kielbasi, you want to throw that in now and get that browned up. After the meat has browned, the cabbage goes in and just allow it to cook and wilt down. Then the cooked noodles go in. I did drain them off and then rinse them in cold water to ensure that they stopped cooking, because you don't want them to be a mushy mess in this dish. That would not be very yummy. I'm going to season with some salt and pepper, and I did add an additional 4 tablespoons of butter, so that comes to 8 tablespoons total. Even though there's only a few simple ingredients in each of these meals, they are packed full of flavor. And this halushki comes in cheapest out of all of the meals. For 6 servings, it is only $1.60 per serving. For this next recipe, we're going to make a really simple version of chicken and dumplings. I am going to cook a whole chicken over the stove, fill in it all the way up to the top with water. I'm going to cover this, bring it to a boil, and then allow it to simmer until it is fully cooked. I usually let it go for about 3 hours or so, keeping an eye on it, and I really just wait until all of the meat just starts to fall off the bone. Now, if you don't have a whole chicken, you can use any cut, but this is the most affordable way to get chicken meat. And what I will do is I will cook the entire chicken either on the stovetop like I did here, or I will spatchcock it and roast it in the oven. I'm gonna pick all of the meat off of it, and I can usually get 3 to 4 pounds of meat off of one of the birds that we raised, and then I will divide that into probably 3 meals. I'll just put the extra chicken meat into some freezer bags, pop it in the freezer, and then I will have a protein ready to go for some quick meals. Another plus to cooking the whole chicken on the stovetop is now I have broth. So I have enough broth for this recipe here, and I had extra that I put into the freezer for another meal later on. I'm going to get my veggies prepped. I am peeling and dicing 4 carrots, and I'm going to chop up 3 stalks of celery. These veggies will go into my Dutch oven with some sort of cooking fat. I used olive oil, and they're just going to cook away until they get nice and tender. Now, all of these dishes were things that we grew up with or are inspired off of things we grew up with, mainly from our grandmothers, mine and Matt's. Matt's grandma lived through the Great Depression and the wars. Man, the stories she had to tell, and so much wisdom and knowledge and resourcefulness. And my Nana, she taught me so much. She was an amazing baker. And for me also, all of the ladies, the older ladies that I grew up going to church with, they invested so much in me and taught me so many things. Now, I did learn a lot on my own, but whenever I had the chance to learn from someone with knowledge and wisdom and skills who wanted to teach me, I was all over that, and I still am to this day. Anytime someone offers to teach me something new, let's do it. And I encourage you, if you know someone with these back to basic skills who wants to teach you, take them up on that offer. Or if you're someone with those skills, pass it on to someone. If we don't pass it on and learn these things, these old ways will just die off and be forgotten. And already we're seeing that happen. For some reason today, it seems to be a trend. It's portrayed as funny or cute to not know how to cook. But in my opinion, it's possibly one of the most important skills you can have. Even if it's something you don't necessarily enjoy. I know not everyone does, but perhaps there comes a time where you have to do it out of necessity. It's a good skill to have. Cooking from scratch is always going to be the money saver. It's always going to be the healthier option. You get to choose what goes into your meals, which then nourishes your body. Quite honestly, the satisfaction of enjoying a meal you prepared will be like no other. Whatever the reason may be, if you are new to this, I hope through these recipes you can see just how simple these are, and they don't have to be time suckers. You can have really flavorful, nutritious food on the table in under 30 minutes when cooking from scratch. And please let me know if you do enjoy this video and the recipes I've shared. Let me know down in the comments, because I have so many more that I can share and do more videos just like this one. So what I've been doing here is just making a very simple dough of 1 cup of flour to 1 egg. Bring that together and then slowly add in some water until you have a nice dough. That's all you have to do for these drop dumplings. So now that the celery and the carrots have cooked, I'm going to add in some of that chicken broth, 2.5 cups. I'm going to bring this up to a boil and add in 1 tablespoon of my homemade chicken bouillon just for some extra flavor. If you don't have chicken bouillon, you could just add in some onion powder or garlic powder, maybe some rosemary or thyme, whatever flavors you like. Now that we have achieved a boil, we can throw in our dumplings. I'm going to take my dough and I'm just going to pinch off little pieces. They don't have to be perfect. This is a very rough and humble dish. The dumplings need to boil for about 10 minutes until they are cooked through. Then we can add in our cooked chicken. I used about a pound. Lastly, I'm going to add in a half can of creamed corn. I'll set the rest aside in the fridge for a meal later on in the week. Stir it all together and then adjust with salt and pepper as needed. This recipe came in at just over $2 per serving, again, serving 6. Okay, my friend, that's all I have for you today for From Scratch Frugal Meals. I hope these were helpful. I hope that you are leaving feeling encouraged and inspired that you can do these things too. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know if you would like me to do another one of these videos down in the comments. Share it with all of your friends and family. I appreciate you all so much. You have a blessed week, and I will see you next time. Take care.